Welcome back to our channel. Just enjoying a mudslide. Look it up on Google. Try it. They're awesome. Anyway, I think today's video, Trump has the opportunity to be the remembered for good or bad. You know, is Trump he has the opportunity in his hands right now to become one of the USA's best presidents in the world. And why do I say this? Because for number one, he says he's against wars, and I hope to God that he's true and he puts a stop to all these endless wars that are happening in Ukraine and USA supporting Israel, and Israel's like the size of Prince Edward Island or Rhode Island, and they just seem to be ruling the Middle East and just creating havoc. And I just wish that, you know, all of the USA has to stop funding all these things, and the USA can't afford to fund all these things. Like, my God, they're $35 trillion in debt, and with Elon Musk and Dodge or whatever, they're going to try cutting a lot of expenses in USA. We'll see how that goes. But, you know, Trump has the opportunity to be the best remembered, one of the best remembered presidents in USA history if he goes down the right path. And he's got a little video, my wife's going to put it on here now, where he says the USA and China, if they work together, they could solve all of the world problems. And that's,
because China and the United States can together solve all of the problems of the world, if you think about it. So it's very important. And, you know, he was a friend of mine.
Gone around the world helping other countries grow economically and their people prosper from opening up bridges and roads and everything like that, so trade becomes more possible. And a lot of that trade is with China, but that's why China's there helping them. But they just don't build things for their they're building schools, they're building roads, they're building bridges, they're building hospitals. They're not just building mines and taking resources out of Africa. And then that's the big one there, Africa. They've been there and they've helped a lot of things there. And they go into other countries like Saudi Arabia and Turkey. And there's other countries, you could look it up there, but they go into these countries and they're building high-speed rail for these countries. And I bet you dollars to donuts if like right now, China has 45,000-ish kilometers of high-speed rail, and USA has 0 high-speed rail. And if I'm sure of it, if the two governments got together and the USA said, could you come here and help us build high-speed rail? China would be there next week, and they could build a high-speed rail that goes across from Los Angeles to New York. You know, it wouldn't take that much time because they have the technology, they have the machines, they have the know-how. And China, that's what they're doing to other countries in the world. So economies in the world, if they could work together, would be mind-blowing on how well, and that's what Donald Trump said, we could solve all the problems in the world if China and USA. I listened to like Piers Morgan. And my wife and I were watching a show called Lioness. And on that there is, oh, big bad China, you know, China's doing this and China's doing that. Like, China is always made out to be in the movies and in shows the bad guy. And the way China, and Trump has said this before in one of his speeches, China is stealing our information from us. Well, that's not really how it worked. When Tesla went over to China to build cars, and Elon Musk, he opens up the plans and everything like that, and he's encouraged people and to move on with technology or whatever. Like, China's not stealing. In order for USA to come over and do business with China, they shared the technology, they shared the knowledge, the Apple phones and everything like that there. So there was a lot of sharing going on. It wasn't theft. In order for USA to do business in China, they had to share this information with Chinese companies. In turn, China prospered, China grew, and they just got better and better and better at what they did. And people went there 20, 30 years ago because they wanted cheap little trinkets and toys, but that slowly, all that, of course, and then people would bring it, oh, made in China, that's so cheap, because that's what you wanted. The USA companies and went to China, and that's what we want this cheap. We only want to pay 50 cents for this or $1 for that. And then they'd bring it home and they'd sell it for $5 or $10. So, and that's what they want. They wanted the cheap quality stuff to bring it back to their house, and so that they could make a profit. And that's what China did. But eventually, China started doing things on its own, and they're called the factory of the world since 2005, I believe. And the quality has just gotten better and better and better. And now China makes some of the best quality electric vehicles. Nobody can touch them. The quality of that there, the high-speed trains, their ability to build bridges and roads and high-speed rail and buildings like our little apartment building that they built there, or condo building, in 2 years you could watch that thing just grow. When we bought our house, it was basically nothing there, and there was videos, people, real estate people going there, and we could watch new videos every month or something like this, and you could see just things grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And there's 23, 34-story buildings, and they built it in 2 years, and it's just in North America, everything's at a snail's pace. In North America, USA is more fixated on wars and creating wars, but they make a lot of money from wars. It's a war machine, and the people that build bombs and guns, they're making billions of dollars by selling them to Ukraine and Israel and all these other places. And when is it ever going to stop? And the infrastructure in the States is pretty sad. If you look at all the homeless and the drugs and the crime, in the States, I can't remember, it's 2 or 3 guns for every person in the States. Like, there's more guns than people in the States. And in China, the police don't even carry guns. There are some, the armored vehicles for delivering money to banks, and they do have a special police force that if there's trouble, they'll be there and they'll shut it down real quick. Like I've always said, if you're a bad person, do not come to China. If you're a good person, like my wife and I, you got nothing to worry about at all. And there's cameras everywhere. It's one of the most surveillance. But in New York, they got cameras everywhere. In London, they got cameras everywhere. But all these cameras in China are preventing a lot of you can wander around at night and you don't have to worry about a thing, because they deal with crime severely. There's you mess up in China, your life expectancy isn't very long. But if you're a good person, you got nothing to worry about. This is the point I'm missing. If USA and China could work together, awesome. But I started to say this earlier, and I just went off on a tangent, and I do that when I hear about this there. But on Piers Morgan, on Joe Rogan, and on TV shows and this and that, there on the news, there always is, China's going to invade Taiwan. The only way China's going to invade Taiwan's been on their own little things for 75 years now. And in that 75 years, the USA has always been there pushing Taiwan for independence. Oh, we'll help you. We'll join you. Yeah, they'll help just about as much as they helped in Ukraine. And it wouldn't be good. But the reason China's in no hurry to take over Taiwan. The only thing that would push them over the edge is if the USA puts their nose into there. But on all these news programs, and one thing I just heard recently, they were talking to a general in the U.S. Army, and they're gearing up. The next big thing in USA armor wars is they're gearing up for a war with China, and they figure by 2025 that they're going to have to go to war with big bad China. And I just cannot see this, because China, they've never invaded a country. They haven't gone into Taiwan in 75 years. Why are they going to do that tomorrow? And I listened to a Jeffrey Sachs video, and I was going to watch it before I made this video, but Jeffrey Sachs, and he's a professor in USA, and he's a very smart man, and a lot of people should listen to this guy because he knows the facts about everything, a lot of things. He's been in China for years and years. He's been in Russia. He's been all over the world, and he's a very smart man. But he said the true facts about China is they're never going to invade USA. USA they got Canada on the north, and they got Mexico on the south, and they got water on both sides. There's no chance that China is going to come over the ocean and invade USA. And one quote that I remember from way back when is like, USA has about 800 military bases around the world to protect them from their enemies. So they're going into people's back door and they're building military bases to protect them from their enemies. And their enemies have never come over to USA to do anything. So how are they they're antagonizing people all the time. And except for 9/11, when some terrorists took over some planes and they did a lot of no good. But other than that, USA has never been invaded and never will be invaded. And there's no chance of that. And China is not going to do that. And China is just on their own, doing their own thing. And the only problem that the USA has with China, and I had to look this up on the dictionary today, and USA, and you hear all these other YouTube channels, and they're talking about the U.S. hegemony. What the hell is hegemony? And I had to look it up today.
What does that mean?
Well, I'm going to tell you what it means. And I had to look it up today as I was driving, and it's they're talking about U.S. hegemony. And I've also heard before that China is not looking for Chinese hegemony. Okay, so what is hegemony? Well, let's see if we can figure out what is hegemony. And I had to look it up in the dictionary. And hegemony is leadership or dominance, especially by one country or social group over another. So leadership and dominance over other countries. And that's what USA has been doing ever since World War II. And they've had hegemony, leadership and dominance over the rest of the world. They got Europe by a little string there. Europe is going downhill so fast because they're not allowed to trade with Russia. So all their energy prices and a lot of their businesses are gone. Well, let me finish this point here with Jeffrey Sachs. So, and right now, USA's biggest problem with China is USA is losing its hegemony, its leadership and dominance over China, because China's caught right up to them. And that is the biggest threat that China is creating for the USA, is they're getting close, neck and neck, economically. That's it. It's not war. It's not anything else. And China, are they building their army bigger? Yes, because in the past, China didn't have that big of an army, but it's still a very small percentage of their economy is going to their war machine. But are they building a defense system to protect themselves? Of course, and most countries are and do. But China is no threat to USA except for economic. That is the biggest threat, and the USA does not want to lose that hegemony. So if they can create a war with China, and that way people, oh, look, big bad China. No, it's big bad USA. And they keep sticking their nose everywhere it doesn't belong. And that's five-star general, that's our next big war. By 2025, we're going to be going to war with China. We got to get ready to go to war with China. That is bullcrap. You know, I cannot believe the small-mindedness of these people. And they're putting the world in danger for nuclear war. Do you think China's just going to sit back? They don't have as much nuclear capabilities as USA does. But when the USA pushed Ukraine into fighting a war with Russia, well, what happened? Okay, the USA promised or tried to get the UN to come into the United Nations to come into Ukraine, and Putin said no. And the USA just kept on pushing and pushing and pushing for years. They drove out their old government, Viktor Yanukovych, back in 2015. And ever since then, that's basically when the war started. But a few years ago, when Putin invaded Ukraine, it wasn't unprovoked. The USA started this back in 2015, and some people say even a lot further back than that. The war started a long time ago because the USA would not leave their nose out of other people's business. But by doing that, Russia and China weren't all that close before this, but now Russia and China are together because they're neighbors, and they've found a way to work together. And China hasn't made sides. China hasn't been sending armament to Russia so they can fight Ukraine. China hasn't done that. But what China has done is they've kept an open business relationship with Russia. And so Russia has not tanked like from all these sanctions that the USA have pushed on Russia, and a lot, and so Russia's doing better than a lot of countries. They're growing economically. They're not shrinking. They're doing quite well. And so anyway, my point is, Russia's going to help China. Is if USA ever invades China, I'll bet you that Russia's going to be right there, and they're going to be fighting tooth and nail with China to hold USA back. And Russia's got a lot of nuclear armament. So if that ever happens, our world is in such danger of a bunch of morons running these, like the USA. Where do they come up with this stuff? And it's all economic. That's all it is. There's no military threat to USA. It's an economic threat to USA. And these morons in the USA, like, oh, our next big threat is China. Oh my God. I can't believe some of the stuff I hear. And people in the Western media, they're pushing these stories, and a lot of people believe it because they're the little frog in the hole. They're there, and they believe everything that they hear on Western news. They don't get out and see for themselves. And I wish, go to YouTube. Now you can go to China. It used to be 144 hours visa-free entry into China, where you did not need a visitor's visa to go there. And now they've changed that to 240 hours for like 50 some countries can go there without a visa. And people are making videos about China and how awesome it is in China. And I want you guys, please just go look on YouTube for the good about China, and you will not believe what you see. And these people aren't getting paid by anybody. I told the government, I was making a video, and please the China government pay me. I'll promote your country, but I do it willingly because I just fell in love with the country since 2007. I've been back to China so many times. I got a beautiful wife. She's from China, and we're moving back to China soon. We have the world by the tail. But the thing about Taiwan that a lot of people don't understand is that a lot of the people that live in Taiwan, they're Chinese. They have relatives in mainland China. So for China to go invade Taiwan, which Taiwan is part of China, and most countries recognize that there's a one China policy, and Taiwan is just a province of China. But they're an independent kind of province. They've been trying for a long time. They got some people there that want to be independent, and the USA is right there, right, and they want to, oh yeah, you need to separate, you need to be independent, you need to do this, we'll sell you, oh, we're going to sell you military. They've sold billions and billions of dollars of guns to Taiwan so that they'll fight China. China's not going to invade China. China's not going to invade Taiwan because Taiwan is China. That's a lot of friends and family and relatives that live in Taiwan. They all have friends and family in China. So they haven't done it in 75 years, and they're sure the hell not going to do it now unless the USA puts their nose in there and pushes China over the edge. And they've been trying to do that for years. And like Jeffrey Sachs says, China's not a threat to anybody. And China doesn't want hegemony, leadership and dominance over anybody. China wants people to live together peacefully and prosper together. That's all they want. And then they'll come to USA and help you do it tomorrow if you just ask. Lay down your guns. I don't know where I'm going to stop it here, because I can go around and sort of just lay down your goddamn guns and work together. Like Trump says, we could be so good together if we just work together. So lay down your goddamn guns and work together, and you guys could spend your money on hospitals and schools and maybe your police force, maybe people. There was 80 school shootings in USA last year. 80, and the year's not even done. 80 school shootings in USA in 1 year. Now you tell me that that's paradise. This is where people want to go. I can't believe. I would be scared to go to USA. I'd be scared to, and a lot of people are scared to walk around at night. It's like, but why not spend all that money that you're spending on wars abroad and spend it on your own country to make your own country better and more beautiful and more safe? And that's going to be the end of my video, because I'm getting angry. Like, I get angry when I think about this stuff. And that five-star general that was on the news, oh, that's our next war. We're gearing up for war with China in 2025. That's looking stupid. So anyway, I think I'm going to have another mudslide. Calm down. Like I tell my granddaughter, take a deep breath. Okay, I don't know if that's going to help. Anyway, like I said at the start of the video, and I hope Trump's true to his word, if China and USA could work together, they could solve all the world's problems. And my hope and pray that that happens. So anyway, Zaijian, see you next time. And we got plenty of more videos coming up. So take care. Bye for now.
What is the biggest misconception that Americans have about China?
First of all, China's no threat at all to American democracy, and it's no threat at all to American security. China is not going to war with the United States. China could not defeat the United States. Chinese society has its kids in American schools. They like America. There's no animosity. What China has done that has so made the United States crazy is that China's been successful. That's all. There's nothing more to it, because China worked really hard to pull itself out of poverty.
Do you not see China as a national security threat to the United States?
Not at all.
Really?
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
You seem very,
I think that this is China's.
You seem very, very unbothered by these authoritarian regimes.
Yeah, because I don't think China's about to invade the United States or do damage to us. I have been going to China for 43 years now, and most of the time, several times a year, and I have studied and written about Chinese history, Chinese economic history. I have taught many Chinese students. I have been engaged in many research programs. Do I find China a threat to the United States? No, not at all.
What if China invades Taiwan, as seems increasingly likely in the next 3 years?
Well, the thing that would make it most likely, as I have said to Taiwanese friends and senior officials, is for the United States to be shipping armaments to Taiwan, because the United States is doing exactly what it said it would not do. It said 40 years ago, actually a little more than 40 years ago, in a very important, famous communique, that the United States not only observes the one China policy, but it has no intention of providing arms to Taiwan over the long term, and that it is going to taper off its arms supply to Taiwan.
Because China and the United States can together solve all of the problems of the world, if you think about it. So it's very important. And